Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button right now. The baseball world just witnessed a seismic shift that most people don't even realize happened yet. While casual fans were distracted by the daily transaction wire and the endless carousel of winter meetings rumors, something far more significant just unfolded in Cincinnati, something that could fundamentally reshape the entire competitive landscape of Major League Baseball for the next decade. And sitting quietly in the shadows, calculating every angle with surgical precision, the Los Angeles Dodgers are positioning themselves for what could be the most brilliantly orchestrated power move in franchise history. Cincinnati Reds superstar shortstop Elly De La Cruz, the 24-year-old athletic phenomenon who makes highlight reels look absolutely routine, has just rejected what would have been the largest contract extension in Reds history. And suddenly, Dodger fans everywhere who understand how this game really works are seeing their wildest championship dreams inch dramatically closer to reality. This isn't just another failed contract negotiation. This is the opening chapter of a saga that could end with one of baseball's most electrifying young talents wearing Dodger blue in the prime of his career. Let's properly set the scene here because context matters enormously. The Dodgers just officially welcomed Kyle Tucker to their already ridiculously stacked roster at his opening press conference, the contract going through and cementing yet another blockbuster acquisition for the boys in blue. Everyone in the baseball media ecosystem thought the next domino to fall would be Milwaukee Brewers ace Freddie Peralta landing in Los Angeles, giving them yet another elite starting pitcher to add to their embarrassment of riches. But plot twist, Peralta ended up with the New York Mets instead, heading to Queens rather than the West Coast. Even more interesting, even more revealing about how the Dodgers actually operate, executive Andrew Friedman came out publicly before that trade and casually dropped that they weren't actually looking for starting pitching anyway, completely contradicting all the breathless reports swirling around from supposedly connected insiders. Classic Friedman misdirection, right? The man operates like a chess grandmaster playing simultaneous matches against opponents who don't even realize they're playing checkers. While everyone obsesses over the obvious moves, over the positions that seem to need addressing, Friedman is thinking 3, 4, 5 years ahead, constructing scenarios that won't materialize until half the league has turned over their rosters. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating, where the real story emerges from beneath the surface noise. While the baseball universe was completely focused on pitching moves and Kyle Tucker's arrival, while reporters were frantically updating their transaction trackers and fans were debating rotation depth, something much bigger was quietly brewing in Cincinnati. Elly De La Cruz, that 24-year-old athletic phenom whose physical tools make scouts run out of superlatives, rejected a contract extension that would have blown past Joey Votto's historic 10-year, $225 million deal to become the richest contract in Cincinnati Reds history. Just let that sink in for a moment. Really absorb what that means. The Reds, a franchise not exactly known for throwing around New York Yankees or Los Angeles Dodgers money, a small market organization that historically watches their stars leave rather than paying to keep them, opened their vault wide and offered their young superstar a genuinely historic payday. They were willing to shatter their own franchise records, to commit resources that would hamstring their flexibility for years, to do whatever it took to lock up their cornerstone player, and Elly De La Cruz, or more accurately his representation, said thanks but no thanks. Appreciate the offer, but we'll take our chances on the open market. Now, if you know anything about baseball negotiations, if you've followed this sport for more than 5 minutes, you know there's one name that strikes absolute fear into the hearts of general managers everywhere: Scott Boras. This man is Elly De La Cruz's agent, and that single fact tells you everything you need to know about how this story will ultimately end. Boras has built his entire legendary career, his reputation as the most powerful agent in professional sports, on one beautifully simple philosophy that he never deviates from. Extensions are for suckers who don't trust their own talent. Free agency is where the real generational wealth lives, where markets determine value rather than one team making a preemptive offer. Scott Boras doesn't just mildly dislike contract extensions, he absolutely despises them with every fiber of his being, views them as leaving money on the table and undermining the entire free market system that benefits his clients. Why would he let his players sign now for what might seem like a fortune, for numbers that would set franchise records and provide financial security for generations, when he could wait patiently and potentially double that number by letting multiple teams bid against each other in free agency? It's classic Boras strategy, the playbook he's executed successfully dozens of times throughout his career. And it's exactly why Dodgers fans who understand the long game should be getting very, very excited right now. Let's talk candidly about what makes Ellie De La Cruz such a tantalizing prospect for any organization willing to think beyond next season. This kid is 24 years old, which in baseball terms means he's barely scratched the surface of his enormous potential ceiling. Last season, he put up numbers that tell a complex but genuinely intriguing story for anyone willing to look beyond surface-level statistics. He hit .266 with 67 walks, showing developing plate discipline and patience at the plate. Sure, he struck out 181 times in 629 at-bats, which sounds absolutely terrible when you say it out loud, and it legitimately is a concerning number that needs addressing. But you know what else he accomplished during that same season? He smashed 22 home runs, demonstrating legitimate power potential. He drove in 86 runs, producing offense when his team desperately needed it, and he swiped 37 stolen bases, showcasing elite speed that can't be taught. That combination of raw power and blazing speed is extraordinarily rare in today's game, the kind of profile that has scouts salivating and general managers dreaming about what could be. Players who can legitimately hit for power and steal bases at that level simply don't grow on trees. But here's the element that has scouts, analysts, and knowledgeable fans absolutely salivating over his future potential. Ellie De La Cruz's raw physical tools are absolutely off the charts, the kind of attributes that make evaluators check their measurement equipment to make sure it's working properly. We're talking about a player whose athletic abilities are legitimately compared to video game attributes maxed out to 99 across the board. His base running isn't just good or above average, it's genuinely elite. The kind of speed that turns routine singles into doubles and scoring opportunities into runs. His arm strength from the shortstop position is cannon level, the ability to make throws from deep in the hole that most players couldn't even attempt. His bat speed is lightning quick, generating power that seems effortless. When you dive into the underlying metrics on Baseball Savant, examining the StatCast data that measures everything from exit velocity to sprint speed to arm strength, they're not eye-popping yet in terms of elite production, but they show consistent improvement every single season, an upward trajectory that suggests untapped potential waiting to be fully realized. And that developmental arc is what has everyone talking excitedly about his what-if ceiling, about what he could become if everything clicks simultaneously. The comparison that keeps getting made is to NFL quarterback Justin Herbert, and it's actually remarkably apt when you think about it. Herbert has absolutely all the physical tools you could ever want in a quarterback. All the arm talent, the mobility, the size, the athleticism that makes coaches dream about offensive possibilities. But the actual production and wins haven't quite matched the astronomical hype yet, haven't fully translated those tools into consistent championship-level performance. Ellie De La Cruz is baseball's version of that exact same phenomenon. The athleticism is completely undeniable, impossible to miss even in casual observation. The raw talent is there for everyone to see every single time he steps on the field, but the actual refined baseball results, the consistent game-to-game production, the polished approach at the plate that separates good players from great ones, those crucial elements are still actively developing. It's almost like he's this incredible natural athlete who happens to play baseball, and now everyone's waiting somewhat impatiently for him to transform into a truly great baseball player who happens to be an incredible athlete. There's a massive, fundamental difference between those two descriptions, and bridging that gap is what will determine whether he becomes a perennial all-star or remains a tantalizing collection of unrealized potential. But that developmental uncertainty is exactly why Scott Boras confidently turned down Cincinnati's record-breaking offer without blinking. And that's exactly why the Los Angeles Dodgers should be circling like sharks, sensing blood in deep water. If De La Cruz puts it all together over the next couple of seasons, if those freakish physical gifts translate into consistent MVP-caliber performance, if he refines his approach and cuts down the strikeouts while maintaining the power and speed, his market value will absolutely skyrocket beyond anything the Reds offered. We're talking about potential contracts that could approach or exceed $500 million. And here's the delicious kicker that has informed Dodgers fans buzzing with anticipation. Elly De La Cruz won't hit free agency until after the 2029 season. That's 3 full years away, which seems like an absolute eternity in the instant gratification world of modern sports where everything moves at Twitter speed. But this extended timeline is where the Dodgers' master-level organizational planning comes brilliantly into play, where their reputation for thinking decades ahead rather than seasons ahead becomes a massive competitive advantage. Los Angeles doesn't just think myopically about next season or even the season immediately after that. They think in decades, in presidential terms, in generational spans. They construct rosters like master architects design iconic buildings with every beam and support structure planned years in advance, with succession plans for positions that won't need replacing until half the current roster has retired. And when you examine their current roster situation with clear eyes, when you map out their timeline honestly, the potential pursuit of Elly De La Cruz lines up almost too perfectly to possibly be coincidental. Mookie Betts, the Dodgers' current shortstop and unquestionably one of the absolute best players in baseball, has a contract that runs through the 2032 season. Betts has been absolutely magnificent at shortstop since making the transition, bringing Gold Glove caliber defense to the position while somehow maintaining his offensive excellence and proving the doubters completely wrong. But here's the unavoidable reality that no amount of wishful thinking can change. In 2030, Mookie Betts will be 37 years old. Now, Betts is absolutely a once-in-a-generation talent, a legitimate future first-ballot Hall of Famer who takes meticulous care of his body and could absolutely still be productive at that age. But shortstop is unquestionably one of the most physically demanding positions in all of baseball. The range required, the quick reactions needed, the diving stops, the pivot throws to first base, the constant lateral movement, all of that takes a cumulative toll on the body that adds up over seasons. And Father Time remains completely undefeated throughout human history. By 2030, the Dodgers will almost certainly need to start seriously thinking about transitioning Betts to a less demanding position. Maybe second base where the range requirements aren't quite as extreme. Maybe back to the outfield where he won MVP awards earlier in his career, or perhaps even designated hitter if the National League still maintains that position by then. It's not an insult to Betts or a suggestion he'll be washed up. It's simply acknowledging reality and managing assets intelligently. Enter Elly De La Cruz, stage left, right on schedule. In 2030, when Betts might legitimately need to shift positions for his long-term health and effectiveness, De La Cruz will be exactly 27 years old. 27, theoretically entering the absolute prime years of his career, the peak seasons when players combine physical ability with refined skills and baseball IQ. If everything breaks right over the next few years, if he continues his developmental trajectory and refines his approach while maintaining those elite tools, he could genuinely be one of the 5 best players in all of baseball by that point. And the Dodgers, with their seemingly unlimited financial resources, their reputation as a championship destination, their track record of developing and maximizing talent, would be absolutely perfectly positioned to make him the cornerstone centerpiece of their next great team. It's succession planning at its absolute finest, the kind of forward thinking that separates dynasty organizations from teams that experience brief windows of competitiveness. But wait, there's substantially more to this developing story, because 3 years is genuinely a long time to wait in baseball terms, and this sport absolutely doesn't operate on such predictable linear timelines. Here's where the plot thickens even further, where additional possibilities emerge. Cincinnati is what you'd politely call a small market team, a franchise operating under financial constraints that teams like the Dodgers simply don't face. They don't have the Dodgers' budget, don't have their diverse revenue streams, don't have their ability to absorb bad contracts or take financial risks. And historically, definitively, they don't keep their homegrown superstars through free agency. It just doesn't happen with any consistency. Players either leave in free agency for bigger markets and bigger paychecks, or more commonly, the Reds trade them away a year or two before they hit the open market, trying to get something substantial in return, rather than lose them for nothing but a compensatory draft pick. Look at what just happened with Freddie Peralta as a perfect recent example. The Milwaukee Brewers, another small market team facing similar constraints, just traded him to the Mets because he was heading inevitably toward free agency, and Milwaukee didn't want to risk losing him for just a compensatory draft pick. That's the harsh economic reality for teams that can't can't compete financially with the big market behemoths. Now, apply that exact same logic to Ellie De La Cruz and the Cincinnati Reds. If he has monster seasons in 2026 and 2027, putting up legitimate MVP-type numbers and conclusively proving that all that physical talent has fully materialized into consistent production, do you really think the Reds are going to let him walk away for absolutely nothing in 2029? Or do you think they might start listening seriously to trade offers in 2027 or 2028, trying to extract maximum prospect value before he leaves anyway? That's where the Dodgers could potentially swoop in even earlier than 2029, accelerating the timeline dramatically. They could offer Cincinnati a package of premium prospects and young major league talent that would be simply too good to pass up. Acquiring De La Cruz 2 full years before free agency, and then extending him on their own terms with years of control. It would be the ultimate long game, the kind of strategic maneuvering that Andrew Friedman has absolutely made his calling card. The Dodgers wouldn't even need to wait patiently for free agency. They could force the issue aggressively, make the Reds an offer they literally can't refuse, and lock up De La Cruz years before anyone expected, before other teams even realized he was available. It's the kind of move that would dominate headlines for weeks and fundamentally shift competitive balance. Of course, there are massive variables still in play here, uncertainties that could derail this entire scenario. The collective bargaining agreement between Major League Baseball and the Players Association expires soon, and the new CBA could include significant provisions that limit what big market teams like the Dodgers can spend. There could be harder salary caps implemented, more punitive luxury tax penalties, restrictions on contract deferrals, like the creative structures that helped the Dodgers sign Shohei Ohtani and others. Baseball's entire economic landscape could look completely different in 2 or 3 years, potentially hampering the Dodgers' ability to throw unlimited money at every problem. Then there's the legitimate question of whether the Reds might actually increase their offer significantly enough that even Scott Boras would have to seriously consider it. What if Cincinnati comes back with a 15-year, $400 million offer that would shatter all their previous records? Would Boras still say no? Probably, because that's fundamentally who he is as an agent. But it's not completely impossible that the right number at precisely the right time could change the entire equation. And let's not forget about De La Cruz himself, the human being at the center of all this speculation. He has to continue developing and improving his game. Those strikeout numbers absolutely need to come down substantially. That batting average needs to climb into more productive territory. The power needs to remain consistent while the approach becomes more refined. He needs to prove conclusively that he's not just an athletic marvel, but a complete, well-rounded baseball player capable of consistent excellence. If he plateaus over the next couple of years, or worse, if he regresses and those weaknesses become more pronounced, this entire conversation becomes completely moot. The hype could fade rapidly, the market for his services could cool dramatically, and suddenly the Dodgers might not even be particularly interested anymore. But if you're a Dodgers fan reading this right now, you absolutely have to love where this story is currently heading. Your team just added Kyle Tucker, one of the best all-around players in baseball. They've got Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and a roster that's built to compete for championships for the foreseeable future. And now shimmering on the horizon, there's the absolutely tantalizing possibility of adding a 27-year-old superstar shortstop with genuine Hall of Fame potential right when your current shortstop might need to transition to a less demanding position. It's almost too perfect, too well choreographed to be anything but intentional planning. The chess pieces are definitely moving, the timelines are aligning beautifully, and Dodgers fans have every legitimate reason to be genuinely excited about what the future might hold. This is your opportunity to be part of the conversation, to weigh in on whether this should be the Dodgers' next massive move. Drop your honest thoughts in the comments section below. Tell us if you're team Ellie De La Cruz or if you think the Dodgers should look elsewhere for their next franchise cornerstone. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the Dodgers' potential future master plans, do me a huge favor right now. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another update. The hot stove is absolutely burning, the rumors are flying from every direction, and we'll be here covering every twist, turn, and unexpected development. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.